The rain hadn't stopped in 2 days, and the forest looked like a dying world drenched in silence and broken branches. Liam dragged a fallen log to block the entrance of his old wooden cabin. His hands were raw, his boots soaked through, but his eyes scanned the dark woods behind him again and again. There was something out there. Not just the usual wildlife, not even the patrol drones from the enemy. Something moved different. Something watched him without making a sound. He hadn't seen another living soul in weeks. Ever since the Alliance bombed the main transport line and wiped out half the valley, the survivors scattered. Liam had chosen isolation. No sides, no noise. Just survival. But that night he heard a voice, not a scream, not a call for help. A soft, broken whisper that slipped through the sound of rain and cracked wood. Please. He grabbed his plasma knife and stepped outside. The air was cold and the fog clung to the trees like a living thing. Then he saw her. A woman, glowing, faintly blue in the rain. Her long pink hair stuck to her skin. Her clothes were torn leather and strange metal cords. Her arms and legs bore glowing patterns like ancient scripts. Her body trembled, but her eyes didn't. They locked on him, proud, royal, afraid to beg but no longer able to stand. Liam didn't lower his blade. What are you? She sank too. Her knees in the mud, hands raised not in surrender, but in offering. Her lips moved again, the words so soft he barely caught them. I'm not here to hurt you. I offer myself for shelter. The words didn't make sense. Not at first. But her body was clearly failing. And she was alien, definitely not from Earth or its colonies. He'd seen their kind in enemy reports. Highborn. Alari were considered too proud to kneel, too dangerous to approach. Their bloodlines were ancient, their weapons even more so. But this one was alone. Wounded, freezing. He cursed under his breath and stepped forward. The mud swallowed his boots as he moved to her. She flinched at first but didn't run. Her body shook as he pulled her up and threw his coat around her thin shoulders. Inside the cabin, she didn't speak. She just stood there, dripping rainwater. And war. Liam tossed wood into the fire and lit it with his emergency igniter. The flames crackled, casting orange light across her glowing skin. He watched her from the corner of his eye. She didn't sit. She didn't ask for food or warmth. She stared into the fire like it was the last star in the sky. You got a name? He asked. She turned her head slowly. Aris. Liam. Silence again. The rain tapping on the roof was the only sound between them. Then, she finally lowered herself to the floor near the fire. Her hands trembled as she reached toward the heat. She didn't thank him. She didn't cry. But her breathing slowed. Her body, once tense like a weapon, began to loosen. It was the first time he noticed the wound's burns, bruises, and one long gash across her ribs. He didn't know what she had been through. He didn't know what she had offered when she said she'd give herself for shelter. But right now she wasn't a soldier or royalty. She was a woman trying not to die in a stranger's cabin, and somehow, that made her human enough. Liam woke up before dawn, and the fire was nothing but glowing embers. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of wet earth and smoke. He looked over at the figure lying near the hearth. Aris was curled tightly, one arm across her stomach, breathing shallow but steady. Her hair clung to her face, and the light from the coals reflected off the strange lines etched into her skin. He moved slowly, careful not to wake her. He didn't know her story, didn't trust her yet. But something in him couldn't look away. From the bruises that trailed across her collarbone and shoulder, he boiled water, crushed some root leaves he'd gathered days earlier, and made a healing broth. She stirred at the scent and opened her eyes. They glowed softly, even in the pale morning light. You'll need to drink this, he said without looking at her directly. She sat up slowly, her body stiff and weak. Why are you helping me? He gave a short shrug. You'd be dead if I didn't. She studied him. Her gaze was sharp, not ungrateful but suspicious. You know what I am. Yeah, Ilari, royal blood. You're the kind that makes soldiers bow and spies disappear. Then, why take me in? Because even a queen freezes to death in the rain. She said nothing to that. Just took the wooden bowl from his hand and drank. Her eyes didn't leave his face as she swallowed the warm liquid. She looked at him like she was trying to read a hidden map across his skin. When she finished, she spoke again. They're hunting me, he nodded. I figured. My guards were killed. My ship was shot down. I ran for 3 days before I found this place. You're lucky you didn't run into someone else first. No, she said quietly. They would have handed me over. She didn't have to say who. The coalition was paying high bounties for Ilari nobility. And Liam had bills he could never pay off. But the thought of turning her in made his chest twist in a way he didn't like. He took the bowl from her and went to rinse it with rainwater outside. When he returned, she was standing near his maps. Her fingers lightly touched the edge of the old paper as she stared at the terrain sketched there. You were a soldier, she said. Not anymore. But you still mark enemy patrol paths. I like to know when death's coming. Aris turned to face him. You could have sold me. You didn't. You offering something else in return? She didn't answer immediately. Her lips parted slightly, and her expression was unreadable. Then she stepped closer, just enough for him to feel her warmth. I offered myself for shelter. That's our law. I don't follow your laws. Then what do you follow? He met her gaze without flinching. My own line. The one I won't cross. For a moment, the cabin was silent again. Then, her shoulders relaxed just barely. It wasn't trust. It wasn't safety. But it was the beginning of something that had no name yet. She sat back near the fire, calmer now. He handed her a dry cloth and a patch kit. She took it and started tending her wounds herself without asking for help. Liam watched her from across the room, not as a threat, not as a trophy, just as someone who shouldn't be alive and somehow still was. And he knew right then that the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm she brought with her. Aris sat outside the cabin, legs folded under her as she stared at the mist rolling across the trees. Her wounds had closed, but the pain in her eyes had not faded. Liam watched from the doorway with arms crossed and a quiet breath held in his chest. He didn't ask questions, but they burned inside him like fire under the floorboards. Who was chasing her? What had she done to make her own kind turn away? Why had she truly come here? She turned her head slightly, as if she sensed his thoughts. You're waiting for the other part, she said. What part? The one where I betray you, or use you, or drag you into something you can't walk away from. He stepped down onto the muddy path and approached slowly. I don't think I ever expected anything from you. Not even answers. She looked up at him. Then why haven't you asked for anything? He knelt beside her. Because the last time I trusted someone, I got a knife in the side and a court-martial that erased my name from every record. Aris didn't speak for a moment. Then she reached into the folds of her waist wrap and pulled out a small glowing shard. It pulsed gently like a living heart, cold blue against the damp air. This is what they want, what they killed my guards for. What I ran with. He didn't touch it, just stared. What is it? Command key. For the last surviving Ilari. Weapon satellite. It can level entire cities. The coalition thinks I'm carrying bloodlines. They don't know I'm carrying fire. Liam's jaw tightened, and now it's sitting here. In my forest. In your hands if I fall. That's why I chose you. Not because you were strong. Because you were forgotten. He stood. You should have buried it. I tried. But I didn't have the strength. I nearly drowned. Then I heard your axe in the woods. The wind pushed her pink hair across her face, and she brushed it back with trembling fingers. Her face showed no pride now. Only quiet truth. I am not asking you to fight for me. I only ask that you let me heal before I decide where to burn this thing." He looked at the shard, then at her, then up at the clouded sky where satellites like hers still circled in silence. "You've got 2 days," he said. "Then we find a way to disappear." "Disappear where?" "Where no one wants to go. The Black Gorge. Even their drones avoid it." She finally gave a small nod. "Then we go together." A sudden sharp noise cracked from deep in the trees. Liam's head snapped toward it. Aris was already on her feet, gripping the shard tightly, in one hand and a rusted blade in the other. "They found us," she whispered. He stepped in front of her without thinking. One hand reached behind him for his rifle. His other clenched the signal jammer tucked into his belt pouch. "We don't run yet. We hold this line." And for the first time, Iris didn't protest. She stood beside him like someone who had been royalty but now chose to be a soldier. Liam tightened his grip and took one step forward into the shadows between the trees. He was done being forgotten. Asterisk, the cave was dark and narrow, carved long ago by ancient waters beneath the hills. Liam led the way with a dim light strapped to his chest, his rifle slung behind him. Iris followed in silence, her hand resting lightly on the rock wall beside her. Their escape had not been clean. Drones had tracked them for half a day. Twice. Liam had fired shots that didn't kill but forced the machines to retreat. They had used up nearly all of his energy cells. "We'll rest here," Liam said, motioning toward a low chamber at the end of the tunnel. Iris nodded, her breath unsteady. She had not complained once, but Liam saw the sweat on her brow and the strain in her steps. He laid out a thermal blanket and opened a small food pack. The scent of warm broth filled the air. She took the pouch from him and sipped slowly without speaking. Liam sat across from her, his back against the wall. "They're not done chasing you." "No," she said. "They won't stop until I'm dead. Or until they have the shard. Then we need to end this before they catch up again." She looked at him sharply. "You'd fight a war for something that doesn't belong to you?" He shook his head. "I'm not fighting for the shard. I'm fighting for you." Her breath caught slightly. It wasn't a romantic statement. It was a line in the sand. A choice made without asking permission. She looked down at the glowing shard wrapped in cloth. "I never wanted to carry this. It was forced into my hand the day the sky turned red. You didn't have a choice." "I did," she whispered. "I chose not to run alone." Liam leaned forward. "Then let's stop running together." Aries looked into his eyes. For the first time, the wall of royalty behind her words began to fall. She reached across the narrow space and placed the shard in his hand. "It's yours now." He didn't argue. He didn't refuse. He simply closed his fingers around the cloth and nodded once. "You trust me that much?" he asked. She nodded. Slowly. "You saved me when I had nothing to give. You held the line when I couldn't stand. That is enough." Footsteps echoed in the tunnel behind them. Faint, but real. Liam's eyes sharpened as he stood and pulled the rifle to his shoulder. Ari stood beside him. "It's a scout. Alone. Then we take them quietly." She stepped past him before he could stop her. Her blade gleamed with dark metal as she vanished into the corridor. There was no scream. No sound of pain. Just silence. Then she returned, wiping blood from her hand. "They know we're in the gorge," she said. "But they don't know the way through. Then we keep moving at first light." She sat again, but closer now. Her shoulder brushed against his as she leaned back against the same rock. "Liam," she said softly, "you didn't just give me shelter. You gave me a reason to keep fighting." He looked at her, and this time he didn't look away. So they sat in the dark, side by side, with fire in their hands and war in their wake. Asterisk, by dawn, the two of them were climbing deeper into the gorge. Sharp rocks jutted from every side, and the sky above was barely visible through the heavy mist. Liam moved first, checking each step, his rifle low and steady. Aris followed close, her hand never far from her blade. The path was old, known only to those who had lived on this planet before the war. Liam had found it years ago during a supply mission, back when he still wore a uniform and believed in orders. He stopped at a narrow ledge and turned to help her across. She took his hand without hesitation. Her grip was strong, her eyes steady. "This is where we make our stand," Liam said. Aris looked around. "The Black Gorge, you weren't lying, no one comes here. They fear the echo storms. Old tech buried deep in the rock. Something about how the machines react. It scrambles their drones, no signals, no trackers." Aris nodded. "Then we'll fight in the silence." They spent hours building traps from scrap, setting charges, and covering their tracks. Every stone they moved had purpose. Every corner they touched held survival. By the time night fell, the gorge was ready. Liam took a final look across the ridges and shadows. Then he sat with Aris near a small fire that barely glowed. "They'll come at sunrise," she said. He nodded. "And we'll be waiting." She pulled out the shard again, unwrapping it slowly. It still pulsed with that deep blue glow. She stared at it like it held her past, her sins, and her future all at once. "This could change the war," she said. "It could end it, but only if it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. You decide what happens next." She looked at him with something deeper than trust. "No, we decide." Liam took the shard and placed it in a hidden crack beneath the fire pit. "Then no one finds it, not unless we fall," she didn't argue. She leaned back against the stone wall and let out a slow breath. "They'll bring elites, not just scouts. They'll want to kill me themselves. Then let them try." Moment passed before she spoke again. Her voice was soft. "You never asked why I offered myself that night. I didn't need to. But I want you to know. It wasn't just for survival. It was because I saw something in your eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time." "What was that?" "Mercy, and strength that wasn't built on fear." Liam didn't reply right away. He stared at the fire, listening to the silence beyond. "The walls. I wasn't sure I had any left." "You do now," she said. They sat in stillness as the night crept closer. No words were needed, no promises made. Only the sound of their shared breath and the soft hum of hidden fire beneath. The stone, tomorrow, would decide everything. The first enemy ship appeared, just as the sun touched the edge of the cliffs. It hovered in silence, scanning the gorge with wide green beams. Behind it, more followed, black machines with silver fangs and no mercy in their design. Liam adjusted the targeting sights and whispered into the static-lined comms. 3 on the ridge, 2 near the southern drop. Keep low." Aris crouched beside the hidden fire pit, her blade resting across her knees. Her hair was tied back, her armor patched with Liam's gear, and her eyes were calm. "They're not expecting resistance," she said. "They will soon." The first detonation shook the gorge like thunder. A scout drone vanished in a cloud of flame. Panic swept through the enemy's formation. Soldiers dropped in from cables, shouting in broken tones as they scrambled through the narrow paths. Liam moved like a shadow, taking down 2 before they saw him. Aris danced between stones, her blade flashing like lightning. She moved without hesitation, striking with skill born from training and desperation. They fought together, covering each other's blind spots. Liam threw a charge into a narrow crevice and shouted. The blast forced half the squad back into retreat, but more came. One of the elites landed near Aris, taller than any soldier before him. His armor was lined with red coils, and in his hand was a plasma pike that hissed with heat. "You cannot win," he growled. Aris stepped forward, her chin high. "You will not take the shard. You would rather die?" Liam appeared behind the enemy and answered for her. "She's not dying today." He pulled the trigger. The elite dropped, his weapon clattering across the stone. Aris looked at Liam, her chest rising fast with breath, her face streaked with ash and grit. "We have to finish this," she said. Together, they drew back to the fire pit. Liam uncovered the shard and handed it to Aris. "What now?" She looked at it, then at the broken battlefield around them. "I destroy it. No more chasing, no more war. Are you sure?" "Yes, let the galaxy rebuild without this poison." She pressed the shard against the stone and activated the self-core. A slow pulse started deep inside it, humming louder with every second. Liam grabbed her arm and pulled her back. The shard cracked, then it shattered. A flash of energy shot upward, blinding bright and pure. Every signal in the area died at once. The drones froze. The enemy ships turned in confusion. The pulse spread farther than expected, cutting off long-range trackers and leaving only silence behind. When it was over, the fire pit smoked softly. The shard was gone. Aris fell to her knees, breathing hard. Liam knelt beside her and pulled her close. "It's done," he said. "Yes," she whispered. "It's finally over." A day passed before they moved again. The sky cleared. No more enemies came. The gorge remained quiet, untouched by the war above. As they walked together out of the shadows, Aris glanced at him. "You know, in my people's code, when a royal offers herself and is accepted without demand, it creates a bond deeper than oath or blood." Liam looked at her with tired but steady eyes. "What does that mean for us?" "It means I was never just offering my shelter or my safety," she said. "I was offering my life." He stopped walking, watching the way her words stayed in the air like sunlight after storm. "And what did I give you in return?" She smiled, small and real. "A place where I didn't have to run anymore." They kept walking, two warriors, with no kingdom behind them, but a new path ahead. Whatever waited for them next, they would face it together.